What is the most unsettling fact that you know? Story 1. The vastness of the ocean and the vastness of space, but more the ocean, because the chances of me dying in space are very low, whereas I live within miles of the ocean and sometimes voluntarily choose to subject myself to a buoyant jaunt on its surface. Story 2. That many people at this very second are wishing for the glass of water I just got from the tap, and of course that someday I will know what it feels like to die, like it's completely unavoidable. At some point in the future I will be like, you wanted to know what comes after passing? Well, there it is. Every time I think about this, I feel something like intense stage fright. Story 3. We are each going to die in some specific, unknown place. You may pass it every day. It may be home, the safest place you know. It may be a gas station. It may be somewhere you have absolutely no knowledge of, surrounded by people you don't now know. But no matter what, that place is out there right now, just waiting for you to show up. Story 4. Bobbit worms. However, I appreciate this Bob Ross quote. Gotta have opposites, dark and light and dark in painting. It's like in life. Gotta have a little sadness once in a while so you know when the good times come. I'm waiting on the good times now. Not to mention they're polychaetes, so if you do somehow manage to slice the head off it or something, it will just grow a new head, and the head will grow a new body, and they'll mate and make more worms. Story 5. The universe is huge. Our entire planet, our entire existence, is but a hydrogen atom in our sun, as compared to the whole cosmological scale, probably even smaller. It makes me wonder why anything we do even matters. Story 6. That literally everything you have ever done has impacted the world in ways you can't even imagine. Dropped gum on the floor, someone else steps on it. This causes him a minor inconvenience of about 30 seconds of scraping. He gets in his car and heads to work. This causes him to approach a light 30 seconds later than he would have. He misses the green light. He misses the elevator up to his office. Now he is late. This was his third strike at a very strict job. He got fired. His wife leaves him. His house goes into foreclosure. All because you dropped your gum in the wrong place. Now it's not. All bad things you will take down and all manner of other things in motion. But you also push people together, create love, get people laid, all manner of things. Still you ruined that dude's life, you gum-dropping bastard. Story 7. Every atom in your body is transient. This means that approximately every 7 years, every single atom in your body gets swapped out for a new one. Therefore, everything that makes you up, your body, brain, and the synapses that store your memories are different to the ones you were born with. You are, in effect, literally a physically different person. Story 8. Assuming you don't believe in a god or afterlife, and I don't, I think about passing, not really passing, but after passing. Nothingness, no consciousness, no existence, no future, bleak, empty nothingness, like before existing. I don't know really how to describe this, but it's kept me awake at night in a cold sweat before. Answer: I'm absolutely fascinated with the concept of nothing. Zero, non-existent, whatever. What do blind people see? They don't. People think, oh, if I cover my eyes, I'll be blind. False. You see darkness, you see the inside of your eyelids. Blind people just don't. Some people who agree with the Big Bang Theory, that is, say that the universe was simply everything condensed into a single small point with empty blackness all around. Actually, according to that theory, the universe was infinitely small and dense at the time. There was literally nothing outside this infinitely small and dense point. This includes space itself. Space is something, regardless if it has something in it or not. Nothing is a concept that is impossible to grasp because nothing just isn't. It doesn't exist because that is a state of being, right? It just does not. Story 9. It kinda freaks me out that in about 50 years, and I look back on my life, I will only remember distinctly about 1/5 of my days. Like you could live like 10,000 days and maybe only remember 50 because something important happened and the rest just disappear. Story 10. Every single person you know you will see for the very last time at some point. You will likely have no idea when this point comes, and for many of the people you still consider good friends, this may have already passed. Edit. Obligatory thanks for the anonymous gold. Story 11. Update if anyone cares. The baby has been born. The grandmother is still alive and still dying. We still don't know if they'll ever get to meet. Second update. They still haven't met yet. They're in different hospitals at the moment, but my grandmother's medical team feels confident that they will be able to meet. She's never going home again, but she's not in palliative care yet and not on machines. So they're prioritizing keeping her comfortable and allowing her to be as lucid as possible for when she meets her great-grandson. Getting them together is at the forefront of everyone's minds, including the baby's parents. Final update. They finally got to meet earlier this week, and now my grandmother regales all her caregivers with stories of how awesome her great-grandson is. And, as an added bonus, she's stable enough that they're going to get to hang out lots more times in the future. Story 12. Most people are dead. Did you know that? It's true. Out of all the people that ever were, almost all of them are dead. There are way more dead people, and you're all going to die. And then you're going to be dead for way longer than you're alive. Like, that's mostly what you're ever going to be. You're just dead people that didn't die yet. Louis C.K. Story 13. That snuff films, child adult content, human trafficking, and every other horrible thing in between are happening in every country in the world. And watching all this is relatively easy with a little computer know-how. The people that enjoy these things aren't in it for money, but usually some sort of intimacy reason. They are also darker and more creative than I ever could be, and therefore do worse things than I could possibly imagine. The enormous potential of mankind goes in both positive and negative directions. TLDR. There are some very dark people in this world. Story 14. In a book by Bill Bryson, he explains an interesting scientific theory. Our bodies have around 100 trillion cells, all of which contain more than 100 times more atoms than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Our cells in our body are recycled every 5 years or so, and along with them, the atoms that compose them. Now, the interesting thing about this is that it's theorized that with this extremely rapid exchange of atoms that everyone goes through, every one of you physically has about 1 billion atoms in your body right now that once belonged to Socrates, Da Vinci, Gandhi, and every other person that has ever walked this earth. This should be you right now. Story 15. There's no hard evidence to suggest that people are really anything more than sophisticated chemical robots, that consciousness is caused by anything but brain chemistry, and that we're really made of anything but matter. I've come to terms with it a while ago, though, and I actually think it's really beautiful now, when you think about it. If, as Carl Sagan said, we are star stuff, then we are our universe completely and totally. The thoughts I am thinking are made of electrical potentials jumping across atoms that were forged in the hearts of stars. My loves and frustrations were once part of billions of other people's loves and frustrations, and I am made of the thoughts of Gandhi and the dreams of Tolkien and the bones of dinosaurs. Hell, I'm made of things that nobody even knows about anymore, has ever known about, or will know about in the future. It's scary to think I'm not special and won't get remembered, sure, but why try to be special and eschew all this when I can melt with it and realize how essential I am to all of it and how I do have a place in the universe, even if people don't remember me. In a tiny way, no matter how I choose to live my life, the universe will remember me simply because I was there to change it. Story 16. The fact that all of us here most likely have access to everything we really need. Food, water, shelter, and we have a lot of options. We have all this while the majority of people in the world don't. Over 1 billion people hardly have food or clean drinking water, and every day is a struggle to survive for them. And here we are, just browsing Reddit in our homes, with food and water in our stomachs. That is the most unsettling fact for me. Edit. I guess the worst thing is that there's not much we can do about it, really. I'm happy living my life the way it is, but if we could fix the world's problems, that'd be something to be proud of. Story 17. Colony collapse disorder. The recent mass passing of all species of bees. They are a cornerstone to life on this planet, and they are dying more rapidly than ever. If they go, we go, and that is the truth. I don't mean to be like this, but if you see this, please upvote. More people need to know about it. This is why I want to become a beekeeper. Story 18. Anyone at any time could just make your life a living hell if they wanted to. They could eliminate you, but I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of the torture other people can cause. Sometimes people don't even realize how they're affecting others. Story 19. Fudge, this is really late. But there is no such thing as time. Think about it. We created it. Everything is in a present. Something that you may think is the past is really just a past present. But while you lived it, it was in the present. And a picture of the past is a picture taken while you were in the present. Story 20. That there is only one way to die, blood pumped from the heart not reaching the brain. But there are billions of ways for this to happen. Edit. All right, the only way to die is clears throat. The essential supplements in blood not being able to be pumped up from your heart and supply your brain with the things it needs. Edit 2. Fine, I'm wrong. Fudge y'all. Flips table. Story 21. Sonderwennen. The realization that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own, populated with their own ambitions, friends, routines, worries, and inherited craziness, an epic story that continues invisibly around you like an anthill sprawling deep underground, with elaborate passageways to thousands of other lives that you'll never know existed, in which you might appear only once, as an extra sipping coffee in the background, as a blur of traffic passing on the highway, as a lighted window at dusk. Story 22. No offense to any Redditors in particular, but I've never understood this feeling of being entitled to immortality or to a legacy. Eventually, you will die and nothing you've ever done will matter in the long run. Eventually, your name will be uttered the last time and you'll be completely forgotten. Yeah, sure, so bloody what? There's 7 billion people on the planet right now. Billions have lived before us, and billions will live after us. Your life is insignificant to humanity as a whole. But who cares? Why do you folks feel entitled to that much attention? It doesn't bother me at all that eventually I'll be forgotten and all that. Because what matters is the time you are on this earth and that you are significant to a select few friends, family, and lovers who bring you joy and to whom you give joy. And it was only in 2007 that the number of people living in cities surpassed the number of people who weren't. Living in a modest band of hunter-gatherers 100,000 years ago, it was not unrealistic to be known, at least secondhand, by the majority of people you ever met. The planet was sparsely populated, and whatever humans existed beyond your immediate environment, you were blissfully unaware of. As humans, we are prone to creating groups of people in our mind in order to understand where we sit in the social order. It's the product of being social creatures. In the past, we had much smaller groups: immediate relatives, close friends, your tribe, outsiders. It is easy to imagine yourself as important when your world consists of a couple hundred people. Contrast that to modern life, where we can place ourselves within much larger groups: cities, states, nations, subcultures, business communities, political parties, humanity. Our world is much larger, and we are cursed with the quantifiable knowledge of how immensely insignificant we are. Personally, I like to think that many people's desire to matter or be remembered is a coping mechanism when confronted with the modern reality we are born into. In some part of our primitive monkey brains, we have a drive to feel significant and matter to other people. And this drive was pretty easy to satisfy when our understanding and our individual worlds were much smaller. It's not a rational thing to feel entitled to being significant or memorable to the world today. But it is understandable when you consider how strange our society seems when contrasted to the one we were created in. As for my unsettling fact, I'll just restate what I said. We are humans living in a modern era with societies that exist on a scale and with an abundance of resources unimaginable to the environment we were created in. Infant mortality in the US has declined from around 25 in 1850 to less than 1 today. Food is increasingly cheap and abundant. It is almost impossible to predict how this new environment will evolve and shape us. Will our societies collapse under the burden of apathy as everything is increasingly automated, and the drive to will technology, by replacing our need for a physical presence and allowing us to be increasingly connected with each other, eventually blur the boundaries between self and group until we are nothing but a collective hive mind? Story 23. The fact I won't be able to see the great technology that will come in, say, about 1,000 years or 40,000 years. I feel like I'm going to miss out on a lot, like going to space or another planet, flying cars, etc. How depressing. Story 24. The fact that George R.R. Martin is 63 and doesn't appear to be in the best shape. It took him more than 6 years to write the last book, and he still has to write 2 more. That guy has got to give the gist of it to somebody. Story 25. If you picked yourself apart 1 atom at a time, you'd end up with a mound of fine atomic dust, none of which had ever been alive, but all of which had just been you. Source: A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson. Story 26. The British RAF's nuclear bombs were armed using a bicycle lock key. One only had to turn the key 90 degrees once inserting it. There was no code required to get to the key socket, only a cover, like a battery cover on a radio or TV remote control, held on by 2 screw big small enough to be removed by a thumbnail or coin. Story 27. We know so little about the ocean, but space is unfathomably vast. It would take light 1/17 of a second to zip around Earth in a fiber optic cable, 2 seconds to get to the moon and back, 16 minutes to the sun and back, and 10 times as long as humans have had writing to get to the other side of just our galaxy. There are 6 billion galaxies. We are nothing. Story 28. I can't set foot in a deep body of water. It creeps me out way too much. If I was ever on a boat on the ocean and fell overboard, I would probably just die of pure terror, even if it was completely safe and all I needed to do was swim to the side of the boat and climb up a ladder. Story 29. And that we know less about the deep ocean than we do about space. What freaks me out is how many dangerous organisms can be under me when I'm diving in the middle of the ocean and I have no idea it's there. Story 30. I feel ya. Things don't normally bother me, but for whatever reason, thinking of dying scares me. It's something you can't come back from, can't heal from, and is inevitable. I suppose, though, that if others have done it before us, then we, along with the many after us, can do it too. Gracefully, I hope. Story 31. I completely relate to you. I had a dream where I was drowning inside my car, and I immediately thought, well, jerk, you wanted to know what it feels like right before you die. Well, here it is. The moment I died, I woke up and was as happy as a deer eating some juicy jerk leaves. But the thought still haunts me. Story 32. Most people will die in a hospital. If you ever have an accident or medical problem, e.g. heart attack, that doesn't eliminate you instantly, you will be heading toward the hospital pretty quickly. At some point in your life, the hospital won't be able to save you. Then you die in a hospital. Story 33. Ah, my time to shine with wonderfully useless knowledge of the bobbit worm. They come from eggs which can be dormant in corals you buy for fish tanks and such. They are next to invincible, and on top of strong jaws that can slice a femur in half, they are covered in venomous spines. So literally, out of nowhere, these things can appear in your saltwater fish tank, and it's virtually impossible to eliminate them, and they will chew tunnels through all your coral and slice your fish in half. Not to mention they're polychaetes, so if you do somehow manage to slice the head off it or something, it will just grow a new head, and the head will grow a new body, and they'll mate and make more worms. Story 34. I have a hard time believing this because the human heart in its resting state beats from 60-100 beats per minute, and using the low number, that's 1 beat per second. On your 46th year on this planet, you would have broken 1.5 billion seconds alive, and your ticker would, using the low number, have reached its 1.5 billionth beat. Story 35. My mom told me a story yesterday from when I was around 2 years old. My dad would take me to the golf course with him, and I would stay in the clubhouse and play with one of the workers' daughters. She was 2 or 3 at the time. Well, she was being babysat by an older person, and he punched her in the stomach because she wouldn't stop crying. This ended up eliminate her. I have no memory of the girl, but my mom said it was hard taking me there after she died because I would ask for her, not fully grasping the concept of passing at the time. Story 36. I never thought of how much it would affect me until my friend passed away of cancer recently. She had an open casket funeral, and it was the most horrible thing I've ever seen. It really put mortality and the pain of a loved one passing away into perspective for me. Story 37. Although we're done mapping the Earth, I would say we're still exploring the Earth, in very early stages at that. Story 38. Orson Welles said something like that about laugh tracks in the 70s, when it made sense. TV was in mono, but it doesn't make sense to say that in 2013 when we watch shows with stereo laugh tracks like iCarly and How I Met Your Mother. Story 39. If he's cutting it that close and he's late for the 3rd time, it's likely that him getting fired was inevitable. At some point, things are so small they're irrelevant, and when you consider that if that man had simply walked with a different stride or another person could have stepped on the gum, it still makes that action small but not meaningless in the grand scheme of things. Great time to start talking about chaos theory, though. Story 40. Replacement time depends on the tissue. Things like teeth are pretty much fixed, small exchange of atoms on the surface, once formed. This fact is used to do isotopic analysis to determine migration patterns, for example. Story 41. I don't think the person is the thing. I think the person is the process. It's like a game of baseball. If you switch out the ball and then have to move to a different field, and then each team switches the people that are on the field, it's still the same game. Story 42. I'm absolutely fascinated with the concept of nothing. Zero, non-existent, whatever. What do blind people see? They don't. People think, oh, if I cover my eyes, I'll be blind. False. You see darkness, you see the inside of your eyelids. Blind people just don't. Some people who agree with the Big Bang Theory, that is, say that the universe was simply everything condensed into a single small point, with empty blackness all around. Actually, according to that theory, the universe was infinitely small and dense at the time. There was literally nothing outside this infinitely small and dense point. This includes space itself. Space is something, regardless if it has something in it or not. Nothing is a concept that is impossible to grasp because nothing just isn't. It doesn't exist because that is a state of being, right? It just does not. Story 43. I find it quite perplexing, really. I also don't believe in an afterlife, so essentially you might be aware of the process of dying, but at no point would you ever actually be aware that you are dead. Your senses would gradually dim. I say gradually, in many cases this could be instantaneous, to the point that nothing else can be processed, so in this sense your senses simply slow down to as near a stop as possible. Yes, you would die, but at no point would you be able to perceive this with any of your senses. You would essentially infinitely perceive your last ever moment, which is both beautiful and terrifying at the same time, depending upon the circumstance of this last moment.